Hey there everybody, Daniel Griffiths here for Jumpcut Online. I hope you've all had a great week so far. I am currently at London Film Festival. We're into the third day and rocking this little thing around the place in my second year as press. I've not long got back from the headline gala of William Nicholson's Hope Gap. William Nicholson has a great pedigree. He has writing credits for Gladiator, Les Miserables, Unbroken, and the most recent film was Breathe, starring Andrew Garfield and Claire Foy. This piece was originally on the stage and is an autobiographical piece of his own parents. So it's been translated onto the big screen. This film is out in the spring and stars Annette Bening, Bill Nighy and Josh O'Connor. The crux of Hope Gap is a breakdown of a marriage after 29 years. Annette Bening plays Grace. She is very much into her poetry and is very much in touch with her feelings. She's very expressive, where Bill Nighy juxtaposes that with very internalised. He can't really express himself. He dare utter a word out of line. He's very weary of what Grace would think about it. And the tension slowly builds, and it comes to the fore when Jamie, played by Josh O'Connor, comes home, and Nighy's Edward is very frank about the situation at home, and he's very adamant that he wants to leave the family home. And it creates this simmering tension and sense of allegiance that, particularly for O'Connor's character, he swings back and forth between the two as Nighy and Bening try to come to terms with the breakdown of their marriage. And in the early going, I think it's a little laboured in pace, this one. I think that it struggles to break away from the confines of the stage, and I think because of the way it's framed and compositioned in terms of its interiors by Nicholson, particularly in certain kitchen table sequences where it's very much eye level, and you could almost imagine it being on the stage, so to speak, because they're very centralised, particularly Nighy and Bening, as they square off and have their little verbal sparring. And it does struggle to build a sense of pace or momentum. But once O'Connor comes into it and the trio bounce off each other, it really comes alive. And where you were sort of waiting a considerable amount of time for fireworks, it really starts to crackle brilliantly between the characters. There's great depth to them, and I think that's the film's strong suit. Beyond its aesthetic, because Nicholson, as the film progresses, it does have more of a cinematic quality. There's sweeping drone shots of the English countryside and the seaside, and it makes really great use of its locations on cliff edges, and I think that's very much a metaphor for what their marriage is, literally teetering on whether they will stay together, or it's literally, you know, going to jump off one of them. And it does feel very much like a matter of life or death for them, particularly for Benning's Grace, who, again, Bening for me is a screen queen. She has been for years, and this is another wonderful extension of why she's so beloved as an actress. Although, if there is one niggle with the character, there's a lot of poetic recitals, which I think the film script does tend to heavily rely on in terms of getting its points across and its themes. But Bening, there is a lot of indifference and irrationality about the way Grace acts, and particularly as Nighy leaves the home. And I think she portrays the sense of anguish and almost bordering on depression, that she's very housebound. She does not want to deal with any of it, and she's almost oblivious to the fact that, you know, Nighy is adamant Edward's not coming home, that is it. And the way she articulates that through the script and her performance is terrific. Nighy's Edward more internalised, But Nighy, again, very softly spoken, is quite muted. But he does have a particularly wonderful exchange with O'Connor while he's eating a cornetto, bless his heart. And he says, it's all contactless, isn't it? And he's referring, obviously, to how we use bank cards, but I think it's a lovely double meaning within the context of the film, that this is sort of the way relationships are now. There's a distinct lack of intimacy. We are used to all these apps, and you know, it's almost as if we're shopping in a way for a certain someone or a quick fix. And he's very much of a different generation, and he's almost craving something fresh within his life, and he's trying to be so considerate of Benning's grace, but ultimately the way he conveys it as well, it's a refreshing counterpoint to Grace. And you know, both characters, they blur the lines in terms of their morals, and it's fascinating to see unfold. But for me, the most compelling element is O'Connor's Jamie, because the way he sways back and forth, and not that he pledges allegiance between the two, he's struggling with a lot of it himself, and he's weary of the fact that he's picking up traits in his own love life, and he doesn't necessarily want to or have the influence of his parents rub off on him. And considering they're constantly questioning him and trying to seek answers, he's just as, not necessarily messed up, but I think there's a lot of insecurity within himself that just makes it all the more compelling as a piece. But as I've said, Hope Gap is cinematically, it takes a while to build to that sort of feeling, because it is very staged, and sometimes it does feel quite stilted in the beginning. And pace-wise, it takes some time to really build up a head of steam. But it is a solid character drama that deals with the complications of marriages very efficiently. You probably want a little bit more fireworks, but the way Nicholson conveys it, it's solid, great character fare, and the performances are superb and anchor it very, very well. But that is my review of Hope Gap. I hope you've enjoyed it. Next on my lineup for LFF, I've already seen Monsoon with Henry Golding. Darling Henry Golding. Matthias and Maxime from director Xavier Dolan, another big fave of mine. So those two are on the way. I'm not sure if it'll be written or video yet. I'm working on it. And tomorrow I have a triple header of Jojo Rabbit, Taika Waititi, of course. Baby Teeth, which is an Australian drama that is getting rave reviews as well. And to top it off, the madness that I've heard about today, The Lighthouse, directed by Robert Eggers. So be sure to look out for those over the course of the weekend. But for now, I've been Daryl Griffiths. Jumpcut Online, of course. Facebook, like our page, Twitter at jumpcut_online, and the website www.jumpcutonline.co.uk. But for now, that is a wrap, and I'll speak to you soon, guys. Take care and enjoy your weekends. Bye for now.